Hey guys, this is Eric with Pixel Rookie, and welcome back to the second episode of our story of the colonists of New Raleigh 2.0 and our Randy's Rough Commitment Run Challenge series. If you missed the first episode, be sure to check it out and we'll continue the story from where we left off. Spirits were high in New Raleigh 2.0 as they successfully defended Fravatar from his attackers. Hot Dog buried the fallen raider where the others were at. It was slowly turning into a little graveyard outside of the base. On the 31st day, a cold snap hit. This could be dangerous for two reasons. The first is that the cold could easily kill with hypothermia. They needed to prevent that from happening. They set up central heating in the now enclosed base to keep it warm inside. Ventilation needed to be installed in all the rooms so everyone stayed warm. Tal finally finished his research on geothermal power. He decided that he would begin researching how to build auto turrets next. The other reason the cold snap is so dangerous is because their crops couldn't survive the freezing temperatures. Their food supply was starting to dwindle. It turns out that one heater wasn't sufficient for keeping the entire base warm, so they had to build another one. Outside of the base, another transport pod crashed. Fravatar went out to rescue this person, hold them captive, to tend to their wounds, and try to recruit them. New Raleigh 2.0 was still growing, and it would really help out if they successfully recruited this new captive. The decision was made to replace all the wooden walls with stone. A simple accident could easily burn down their entire base, and they knew that this was their new home for now. They had to make sure it was more formidable. A few days later, Tal successfully recruited the new colonists to the base. Since the spare room was not ready, a bed was set in Hot Dog's room temporarily. We'll name this new colonist Obvious Lee from our Discord channel. Welcome back, Lee. I hope this run goes better than the last time around. Anyways, with the increased size of the base, the two turbines were hardly providing sufficient energy to the base anymore. They needed to hurry and finish the construction of the geothermal power generator soon. Because they couldn't grow crops for food anymore, they had to hunt. While Swarmlord was out hunting, a muffalo nearby went mad and attacked him. Reinforcements came soon enough and they took it out. This would provide a lot of meat for them, but Swarmlord was pretty banged up from the fight. They were still having issues with the power and they needed more space to have a proper infirmary. The accommodations were being made while New Raleigh 2.0 continued to expand. On the night of the 6th of December, two pirate raiders were preparing to attack New Raleigh 2.0. They didn't want to risk getting anyone hurt, so they made defense preparations. That morning, the men prepared for attack. The firefight began. Swarmlord tried to close in for a better angle on the enemies, but it wasn't working. He and Fravatar fell back to go around for the flank. Fravatar got there quickly and engaged with the closest raider. He easily brought him down. The other raider tried to flee, but Fravatar was way too fast. He caught up with him and took him down quickly. The two of them were only wounded, so both of them were taken in as prisoners. Maybe they'd be able to convince them to join New Raleigh 2.0. Both prisoners had pretty extensive wounds and needed to be treated immediately. While tending to their wounds, one of the prisoners didn't make it. Another casualty for trying to invade New Raleigh 2.0. Another grave was dug for them to be properly disposed of. With power surges still happening, Hot Dog was finally able to finish the geothermal power generator. This was a huge step of progress for their colony. The next big project that they needed to consider is better defenses for the base. They decided that walls needed to be set up to make one individual entrance into New Raleigh 2.0. On the 8th of December, another transport pod crashed nearby. Obviously, went out and captured him so they could nurse him back to good health and try to recruit him. Continued progress was being made and expansions were being built in the base. With everything else going on in the base, they didn't realize how critical their food situation was becoming. Their storage freezer was almost completely empty. Swarmlord went out to hunt some megasloths that were in the area for food. While hunting, one of the megasloths turned on him and started to retaliate. He started to flee and needed some backup. The group worked together to fight the Megasloth, and they were finally able to take it down and bring their corpses back to the base to be butchered for their meat. During all this, and completely out of the blue, Hoff had a mental break, and without hesitation, he slaughtered Tal's pet dog, Pepe. Everyone was shocked by this outburst, but because of their dire food situation, they had to move past this and use Pepe's meat to help them survive the remainder of winter. They finally had some more food supplies and meat stored up, so obviously began prepping meals for everyone again. They realized that their initial wall was built too close to their base. They could use some additional space, so they planned a new wall and started disassembling the old one. They also closed out their south entrance to make one entry point into the colony. From here, they made a funnel into their only entrance so any intruders would have no defenses if they decided to assault New Raleigh 2.0. On the 12th of December, things started to take a turn for the worse. Fravatar had a mental break and was wandering in the colony in a depression, and immediately following, Swarmlord, Hot Dog, obviously, and one of the prisoners got sick from the plague. This could be devastating to the colony. Out of nowhere, Swarmlord collapsed from his sickness and needed immediate medical attention. The plague was hitting him hard. Tau rescued him and immediately started tending to his sickness. They've done everything they can at this point. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. The worst happened with his sickness. Swarmlord died. Let's take a moment to look over the last events that occurred before he was taken. Burying him with the others wouldn't do him justice. Swarmlord was one of the original 3 founders of New Raleigh 2.0. They decided that a crypt would be made and he would lie there for the rest of time. First, they needed to carve out the final resting place. During all this, Hot Dog collapsed while he was out. The plague might take him next. Tau didn't want to lose another colonist that day. He immediately rescued Hot Dog and laid him in the infirmary. Tau was trying to tend to his illness right away, but then something happened. Upon further inspection, it looked like Hot Dog was able to develop an immunity to the plague just in the nick of time. He was safe. For now, at least. That evening, the crypt was dug out and it was time to say goodbye to Swarmlord. His outfit was removed, and because Fravatar was the melee fighter, he was given the armor for protection. Fravatar built the sarcophagus, and Hoff took him into his final resting place and laid him to rest. It was a sad moment for the colonists of New Raleigh 2.0, but they had to continue moving forward from this if they wanted to survive. And that's it for this chapter of their story. Unfortunately, it's being left on a sad note compared to the last time. I hope you enjoyed watching their story unfold so far, and if you want to be part of the story with them, let me know in the comments below, and maybe it'll just show up in a later episode, or at the very least in a different series later on. Stay tuned for the next episode to see what happens next with New Raleigh 2.0, and as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, have a good one.